Nancy Ho is my guest today, and what an episode this is. We talk about what makes transformation leaders tick and discuss simple techniques that can help you become more effective, more energized, and ultimately more successful in your career. Nancy has worked with many global industry icons and is a thought leader on the professional paradox. I'm sure you're going to get massive value from this episode. Let me introduce you to Nancy now. Well, hello, Nancy, and welcome to the Transformation Leaders podcast. Thank you for joining me today. I'm looking forward to actually exploring how your approach and philosophy can support and guide leaders in successfully delivering organizational change and transformation. And I appreciate, you're coming at things from a slightly different angle to maybe other guests that I've had on the show. But before we get into the detail, please do share your story. Tell us a little bit about yourself and just that general introduction, so that people can understand your background and where you're coming from.
Okay, I'm honored to be invited today. All right, Tony, I'm Nancy Ho. I'm from Singapore, and I've been call it a change leader, call it a transformation leader, but I like to believe that I've always been the catalyst for people that are not exactly too satisfied where they are and they want to get to where they want to be. Okay, I've been doing this for the last 27 years. Yeah, coming 27 years, right? And this thing called change is probably in my DNA. Right? Why do I say that? Yeah, from the time I was a child, literally, the only thing I knew was called change.
Wow.
Yeah. Why do I say that? Right? To start with, right? It's not about just getting too personal my story, but then it is significant. My father passed on when I was only 3 years old.
Right.
But don't take it sad. It was not. Yeah, it was not. Of course, I'm not saying it's happy, but it wasn't like, oh my God, I'm devastated. My world is upside down. No, because I mean, he had impacted me in a great way from the time I was in my mother's womb. Right. So the only thing I knew was called love, right? Because we're so connected. So I was sitting on his lap, my impression, I've been told, of course, again and again, how much dad loves me, so on and so forth. So of course, when he passed on, that was the first thing, right? That I knew something is different.
Yes.
Very different, because I no longer have the person that I can sit on his lap.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm kind of like appreciate the fact that I learned that since at a very young age. Because if you look at people generally, right, they get a shock when whatever change, or they detest changes.
Yeah.
And we know the only thing that remains constant is change.
Absolutely.
Right? And yet when there's a change of policy, a change of thing, people just take it so negatively.
Yeah. Which is good, because that keeps us all very busy, doesn't it? But I think the opportunity for people to choose to lean into change is so important. Skill to develop, and obviously you developed at a very young age. So just bring us up to speed in terms of like what your career to date and what you're doing now. That'd be great.
Sure. So I what I wanted to sum up was that it was like, it's just so natural to me. Change is just something you have to do differently.
Yeah.
So I grew up learning how to do that. So quite naturally, I progressed into a career that way. Not. Of course, I was so young then. I'm talking in my 20s. Okay, after I came back from UK. All right. So I said, what do I want to do? All right. And I said, I know what I want to do. What I want to do is that I can impact on others. Okay. I was 24. I was 24 then, right? What do I do is impact on people. What I'm going to do is having some kind of control in my own hands. That's kind of like interesting at 24. Right? And I said, to impact on people is like go for things that people find it generally not the norm.
Yeah.
Although change is the norm, but it's people liked the comfort zone. They love things that if they can be the same forever, that kind of attitude.
Yeah.
So of course, without a lot of details and all that, when I was in Switzerland, I was in London, I've learned a lot of all these skills about the personal and professional development areas.
Yeah.
So I went into that. Of course, I started first, as a trainer. Okay. First, I started as a trainer in different areas of personal development.
Right.
And that's where I saw the big gap that, people are adverse towards changes.
Yeah.
They don't take it very well. Okay. So that's how it got me started really about all this transformation. Right. So at that time, transformation, this word was not even the word, right? Nobody understood that word.
Yeah. I think it's still the case. A lot of people still don't understand the word. So I think there's a lot of education still to be done.
Yes, yes. But yeah, they don't quite get it, but they know they have to face it.
Hmm.
And even more so in this era. Okay. It's so funny. So why I say it's so funny, I'm sure we read the news that Dubai, the
Yeah.
airport, flooded. Wow.
Yes.
Already there was rain some months ago, right? And I used to go to Dubai a lot, and I used to go there and do a lot of coaching on transformation changes and all that.
Yeah.
So Dubai is pretty close to my heart. And I said, what? Rain? That's not Dubai. And then when I saw that 2 days ago, the airport terminal was flooded in, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So again, the attitude, which I'm glad being a Singaporean, we are quite used to, like, or rather the government have made it such that they make changes conducive.
Right.
Yeah,
I,
they make
I, I,
changes conducive. Yeah, so that becomes easy,
yeah.
in the sense of attitude. Yeah.
I
Mhm.
should explain to the listeners we're recording this on the 18th of April, and it was been in the news over the last couple of days. In fact, this morning in the UK, it was reported that Dubai in the last 2 days have had 1.5 years worth of rain, and
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely, it's been devastating. I saw a video last night of someone driving on the motorway and going into the storm and literally going from reasonably good visibility to no visibility within the space of a few seconds. So yeah, quite frightening
Yes.
for them. So yeah,
Yeah.
as you say, getting used to
Absolutely.
that is critical.
Absolutely.
Bringing it back
Yeah.
to the
So
sorry.
yeah. Sorry.
No, so bringing it back to the sort of core purpose of this podcast, which is around organizational change and transformation. Um, how do you define transformation? We just touched on the word, but what's your definition of the word transformation?
I'll call it making that shift.
Hmm.
Making that shift. I'd rather see that making the shift than really the word change, because there's still a lot of what they call it good qualities, certain policies, certain strategy that still works.
Hmm.
So if we implement that word change, it suggests almost like you got to throw away everything altogether,
Hmm.
which is not true. All right, absolutely not true. All right. So I look at transformation as making shift, but of course, strategically, right? We need a strategy
Yeah.
to make the relevant shift. Okay, the relevant changes, the relevant shift. But in order to do that, one has to deep dive what's not working,
Mm.
or at least preempt what may not work in time.
Yeah.
Then we'll not be in for shock in that sense. So, like I was saying that, as our government makes it conducive for change because they preempt.
Hmm.
They preempt what may come as may not be very positive, as like the problems may come in 3 to 5 years. The problem may come in 10 years, whatever. I don't work for the government, so but I see them doing it
Yes.
as I grew
Yeah.
up. I mean, I'm 60 years, so I've seen quite a bit of the transformation of Singapore. All right. So first, we have to deep dive to either what is the problem now, and really being very honest about it,
Hmm.
and not, denying, uh, things were panned out, and that what I call the fake positivity. Everything will be all right. No,
Yeah.
no, no. What's not good is not good. You just have to fix it, so-called. So we go deep dive to look at, what's not working, what may not work,
Yeah.
and then what do we want. Of course, if we are referring to organization, it's all the same too.
Yeah.
All
Yeah.
right, so the leaders have to sit down and look at, what used to work 20 years ago may not work anymore now, or 10 years or 5 years ago, especially let's call it the post-COVID days that now that we are facing. Yeah, so I look at it that way, that shift that's required.
I think you raise a really interesting point, and one of the things I've been doing recently is talking about the virtue for organizations to have a chief transformation officer as part of the C-suite, and whether that's a full-time role or a fractional role, it doesn't. The key is that there is that role, and the reason for that, I think, is a lot of times people get appointed into that role when they're starting a transformation to lead it. But I think there's a critical element of it, which is that forward look. So what's not going to work? What are the opportunities moving forward? And having that visibility, and then looking at it across the various functional aspects of an organization. And you could say it's a crossover with the strategy piece, absolutely.
Yes.
But the key is to look at it through the lens of how the organization needs to change and adapt moving forward, and getting the sooner you can have visibility of that and understand it, the better prepared you will be to drive that change successfully within the organization. So absolute critical point. Thank you for that. Just coming back to some of the things that you talk about on your LinkedIn profile and general sort of material that you put out, you talk about the paradox of professional success. So tell me more about that. I'm fascinated to understand a little bit more about that.
All right. Let me frame it this way. All right. So the C-suites, the business owners, right? Sure, they are at their height of their career, right? Or in their businesses. So often, the success is like the all looks like they have it all.
Yeah.
Why is it looks like? Sure, they have it all, right? They have it all, the wealth, the position, right? The power to some degree and all that. But because I work with them personally, all right, one-on-one. The but is often they have void. So they have this void in spite of professional success.
Yeah.
Right? And they cannot show it. Of course they can't. All right. So what is this void and this emptiness? And then that can lead to a lack of clarity, because in the appearance, right, they have it all. Right? They have it all. So to even talk about it, right, seems like it's strange. I mean, stop being like, don't start looking for trouble and you're all right. So of course, the paradox of success, okay, it's not being negative, but really, again, I like to deep dive. I'm a deep person in that sense.
Yeah.
So I actually deep dive to find that they may have the void, and then they have some past traumas or stresses that's unresolved. Kind of, in a lot of culture, we sweep it under the carpet, or what we call firefight. Well, that is quite a norm, all right, in some situations. But if it becomes a habit that we sweep it under carpet, then that's where it's unresolved stress, and maybe even call it traumas. Then, of course, getting the right people, the talent, can be an issue today, especially the match. Okay, it's not just a talent as the ability, the talent as, the skill set alone, but even the culture, the fit got to be there. Right? And of course, because they work God knows how many hours in a week, although a lot of organizations are striving for 4 days a week, right? The point is the number of hours they have, put in work, they travel and all that. And that also can, impact negatively on their personal relationship.
Yeah.
And due to the above that I said, that certain health issue arises, what I call psychosomatic. Psychosomatic illness is like the mind created the sickness.
Yeah.
So I actually worked with a lot of C-suites, business owners, senior managers and all that, to actually look into all of this, I call them pain points.
Yes, absolutely. No, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's interesting that the three elements that you brought up there are so critical. The more senior you go within an organization, the more lonely it can become. Because as chief exec or functional lead, you don't want to show your vulnerabilities often to your team or to your fellow C-suite members. And having that ability to be able to step back and accept those vulnerabilities and talk them through with someone that's not within the organization, not connected, is so important. And that's one of the reasons and one of the catalysts for setting up the Transformation Leaders Hub, to give people who are leading transformation that opportunity to share their experiences with other people that are like themselves, but not competing within the organization.
Correct. But it's not a threat, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But I think the second point that you raised there around bringing people into the team that are the right fit. Again, all too often, I find that there is a tendency to bring people in that are like yourself. And actually, that can be detrimental to team effectiveness, because you need that variation within the team. So, again, one of the things that I found is that you tend to get lots of people who've got the same mindset working within teams, and that can create challenges. And the third element around that stress and maybe the breakdown of relationships and stuff, something that we talk about all the time on this podcast. Because going through change and transformation is often really, really stressful for everybody. Whether you are leading it or whether you're receiving it, it can be stressful. So, yeah, totally agree with that, with the 3 points that you raised.
Yeah. I worked very closely with this C-suite. He's fairly young, only 38, but a startup. They've been around for like 6 years, coming to 6 years. Okay, so they are not startup, just started 1 or 2 years, right? They still call themselves startup. In the AI, cybersecurity, blockchain. Yeah. Okay. So it's interesting. He comes in and talks to me every week. Yeah, nearly every week, unless he has to travel. He'll come in, and literally, I know everything about his company.
Yeah.
Every single person. You know what I mean? Even they just did a pay cut thing. Okay, so even the pay cut, what's the percentage, and so on and so forth. It's not that he wants to fill me out with all the details. What is it actually is? It's like his soundboard.
Yeah.
I'm catching the gaps. Because when sometimes, even for us, right, when we do something, we can be very fixated and we think we are right.
Yeah.
This is the way to do it. This is right. Okay. And I said right, wrong. I don't mean, that wrong, but it's like we may not see blind spots. Yeah. So I'm like a soundboard, that will hear that. I said, okay, wait a minute. All right. I hear something, and then I'll bounce it to him. Like, oh, yeah. So like you said earlier on, you attract the people are just like you. So when they discuss in the company, they all sit in the same light.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. And do you find that sounding board, then actually just having that opportunity for him to talk openly and almost get the thoughts that have been going around in his head out verbally? When I do that, I know that when I'm talking about certain things or explaining certain things that I've had in my head for many weeks, by verbalizing it, it helps me to understand it, and helps and I recognize often that as I'm starting a conversation or starting to verbalize what I've been thinking, my viewpoint's changed halfway through, and that's the opportunity, isn't it, that you're providing those C-suite members that ability just to have that sounding board and verbalize what they're thinking.
Yeah. I call it clarity.
Yes.
Clarity. As you verbalize, like you said, as you go along, it creates that certain clarity. That's so key. All right, that's really so key. And then, of course, after when, there's a certain gap or there's something they overlooked or the blind spots, whatever it might be, then they can jump in and then know what they need to do.
Yes.
Apply the necessary, changes. So then these changes becomes not painful, inverted comma, but rather a necessity, and it can be quite motivational.
Absolutely.
Because you see it as a necessity, and you see it as it's part of that let's call it the moving blocks.
Yes.
Towards that goal. So you no longer is that pain. And also people that receiving it would then, of course, the C-suite or whoever going to express it would know how to express it in a way that the people that receive it will also receive it in a more positive way, because it's towards the growth, it's towards to a better thing. It's not, let's change. We want to change. The policy says this. That becomes of course, then becomes painful, or people don't receive it well. Yeah.
And leading on from that, once they've got clarity in their own mind about where they want to take the organization, so I call that the North Star, getting absolute clarity around the vision, and then looking to communicate that out across the organization, and start to build that collegiate type of environment that people are working towards delivering of that. I often find that middle managers can sometimes be really supportive, but other times can be quite obstructive. What's been your sense of that, and what sort of things have you found work well in really engaging those middle managers within an organization?
Yeah, so true, so true. Sometimes it can be destructive. If people take it personally, it's usually destructive. It's as if it's against them.
Yes.
Or they have something to lose. That kind of personal. Then of course they'll be guarded, they'll be defensive. The whole energy will be negative. So I prepare my clients, the C-suite clients, such a way that it got to be it's not personal.
Yeah.
It's not personal, right? Even like I told you the pay cut thing, they all took it very well. They all took it very well because they can see that it's not personal. Although, of course, it's not the most positive thing that happened to their life, but they see that it's necessary. But of course, there's also other incentive that builds in.
Yeah.
That builds in, that's not just simply like, pay cut, that's it, goodbye. Or if you don't accept it, then off you go. It's not like that. It's not just, clean cut this way, but there's an incentive that builds in, and also a plan forward.
Yes.
Yeah. So they would see that, like, that's what I mean by a necessity. Okay. That, this is what we need to do in order to arrive to that destination, that goal, for the year, things like that. So long, if you express it, not that they're not being personal about it, or they're hurting, it's good. Psychologically they are good.
Yeah. I think it is. It's looking at things through the lens of the individual that you want to engage with, isn't it? And trying to understand what the change will mean to them, and then frame it in a way that I think does two things. One, provides them with clarity, because a lot of times it's the lack of clarity that causes the stress.
Sure.
And secondly, as you say, if you can position it whereby there is there's a benefit to them, so they can see, and if there isn't a benefit, again, just being open and honest with them, it is clear. Within large scale transformations, sometimes you don't have the answers from day one. But one of the things that I always say to organizations I'm working with is that even if you don't have all of the answers on day one, you can give people an idea of what you're doing to get the answers and what timescales we're working towards. So that you don't leave a void, you at least provide them with a roadmap of how we're going to get from A to B. And I think that's always critical, because it's about really grabbing hold of the hearts and minds of people, isn't it, when you're driving change?
Absolutely. In fact, there was this other company that I work with. All right, I find that they are not not together. I call it not together. It's like, each individual is doing their own stuff.
Yeah.
Right. And we all know about what is teamwork. Right. We know how important is teamwork. And especially when you drive change, you need that teamwork.
Mhm.
So I stepped in and I looked at that. I said, okay, sure. It looks at teamwork. I said, first, we must have a good, energetic, strong, energetic theme. And then we work towards it. So I came up with this title, United Hearts.
Right.
Collective success, towards collective success.
Right.
Do you like that?
Yes. Yeah. Yes. Good. That. Yes.
Yeah. United Hearts. Right.
Yeah.
Working towards. Yeah. Work towards collective success.
Yeah.
So I went from this theme. I went on, of course, like the repercussion if people are not united.
Good.
Rather than I go on the approach like, teamwork, you have to work together. They're already not feeling good. If you go say things like that, they're not paying attention. It's like, get out of town. You know what I mean? Right? So I just went and I went into that repercussion. And of course, part of the repercussion is also it impact them personally.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's not just the organization. Right. So they see that then now working towards that, what is United Hearts. And I saw the shift of attitude.
No,
That's change.
It's so important, isn't it? I remember years ago, someone introduced me to a radio station, WIIFM, What's in It for Me? And every time you are dealing with individuals, you always need to look at it, what's in it for me? Because that's what their first thoughts will be, highly likely will be. What's the impact upon me? So, talking about what we want the organization to do and where we want the organization to be and why we want the change is critical. Absolutely, that we've got that clarity. But when we're communicating it, we've always got to look at what's the impact on the individual,
exactly,
and how you can help the individual to move along the path that you want to take them. Yeah, absolutely.
And what's critical also is momentum.
Yes.
A lot of transformation leaders, thought leaders in that field, they go in and then they, implement all these changes, and then kind of like they go away and expecting them that they get it.
Yeah.
All right. I mean, right. People forget, right? So what I usually do, I actually set up a Facebook page for them.
Right.
Yeah, and I'm pretty big in making videos, right? Because I have my group coaching, and I'm always like, that's the most time effective way of coaching, and for people to learn, right? Then to always get them to come together because everybody's always busy, right? So I produce these videos and according, like say, the theme, right? So I would just do like a 3-5 minutes video, which everybody must have 3-5 minutes at their own time. So they watch that and then they engage, right? I say, please comment. So from their comments, then I know what they're thinking.
Yeah.
Then only when I know what they're thinking, then, together with the C-suite, okay, then we can sit and then, okay, that's what they're thinking. So again, the clarity, then we know either, the relevant strategy, the relevant steps, and also how to express it. So we speak their language.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
think
I've seen that work really well in internal social media sort of sites as well. What I remember, Viva Engage, isn't it? It's the Microsoft. It used to be called Jammer. It's now Viva Engage, and people in organisations that I've worked with have used that really, really well to create these channels. Because the key is sharing information, but the key is that engagement bit, and you learn so much from the engagement on those in those tools.
And also, like I said, momentum. Yes. The momentum, because they don't get one video, right? They continue getting it the second one. So if you don't get it the first time, you get it the second time. As the momentum builds, they will get it as somewhat. And of course, it's also important to build some kind of buddy system. Yeah. So what I do is also like, whatever we suggest on the, the plan to the steps, all right, the strategy, right? We have buddy system that they work on it.
Yeah.
And one of I to believe success formula is getting people to express their work through the core values.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So there's this organization core values. So everything that they do is coming from the core values.
Yes. How do you go about doing that? How do you go about doing that? Because I totally agree that that's a really effective way of getting people aligned and working to that common objective and common aim. But it's not easy. It's really challenging, especially if the organization is like through like an M&A or a merger, where you've got two different cultures, or in some cases 3 or 4 different cultures, all sort of coming together. What sort of things do you do to get people aligned on the values of the organization?
So I think first it's called reset.
Mm-hmm.
Reset. All right. You can't just take something from the old and expect the new, so-called a merger, the company to just accept it like that. So we would just have to reshuffle the cards, so to speak. Right? Again, put the people as the forefront, not the policy as the forefront.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Reshuffle the cards, reset the whole thing, and then come up, which I do that part of my work, to come up with the core values.
Right.
That's now so-called inverted comma, the new core values.
Yes.
Rather than they're expected to follow what had been in place. Yeah, I find it effective that way. So the so-called the new core values doesn't mean new as everything is different, but it's a set thing. And then we need to educate them.
Yeah.
Not just put it on the wall, like the mission, the vision. Don't put it on the wall, but you so in my coaching, all right, I do that. So we come up with that, the so-called core values.
Yeah.
All right, explain that, explain that to the channels, and then how they break into teams. How can they apply that in their work?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So we have to make it applicable. Power is not knowledge. Application of power is knowledge, right?
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
They have to apply it. So apply the core values in their work, right? That's what is important. Like what the core values is about, independent and interdependent.
Mm-hmm.
Dependent and interdependent. So we talk about this thing, and then they're going to practice. Everything is cultivation.
Yeah, it's that ability, isn't it, of bringing the values to life and living and breathing them on a day-to-day basis.
Correct.
And especially when you are looking to change them or as you say, create the new set of values, the key is that the whole leadership team, and the leadership team being the all of the wider leadership team, to live and breathe those on a daily basis.
Yes,
because
absolutely.
People will be looking for you to step out of line or to go back to the old ways. And the sooner you do that, it gives them the avenue to go back to what they used to do. But reinforcing it day in, day out, and celebrating when you see stuff working along the lines that you want it to work. And at the same time, identifying when people are going back to the old ways and helping them to move to the new ways is so critical to get that new habit forming almost. And
Correct.
there's a saying, isn't there, 28 days to form a new habit.
Yes.
And
yes.
It's the same principle. If all you do is one communication or 4 or 5 pieces of communication, it's not going to land. It's that constant reinforcement day in, day out that actually makes these things land.
Absolutely. I think this reinforcement is a little bit lacking though.
Yeah.
Because people get too busy, they just want to get caught up in their, of course, we are all busy, and we have got deadlines and stuff like that. So they are too kind of like focus on the outcome instead of focus on the process. So I insist, all right, in my clients, focus on the process, the outcome will be positive. Because we cannot control the outcome. We can control the process.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And also the process is, if it take time, like I said, working a body system, right? Applying the core values, how you show up in your work, stuff like that. Like one of the core values, like the wow factor. Yeah. So everything you do, you want to deliver that wow factor, right? It's an attitude.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think just coming back to what you're just saying, I think it's important to get clarity around the outcomes that you're looking to deliver. But once you've got clarity and you've spoken about it, absolutely focus on the process to get there.
Yeah.
And work that activity on the process. Great. Yes, thank you very much for that. So we always finish off each pod with a question about your non-negotiables. So in terms of delivering the change that you help your clients to deliver, what are the non-negotiables that you want to have in place or need to have in place for that to be successful?
And the non-negotiable always has to come from first integrity.
Right.
Integrity cannot be compromised regardless. Mm-hmm. That's the first thing. But of course, we, again, the leader has to drive this integrity.
Yeah.
So it's non-negotiable as far as integrity is concerned. Non-negotiable in terms of quality is concerned. The quality of the work.
What was that second one?
Quality.
Quality.
All right. Because if you compromise the quality, right, then you cut corners. Mm-hmm. Regardless what business might be. It can be a service, it can be a product, is all the same.
Yeah.
Right. And third, of course, being result driven. Mm-hmm. Right. Being result driven. There's three things we cannot not go without.
No, great. So integrity, quality, and results driven. Love it. Thank you very much. That was great. Thanks a lot. That was a really good session. I'm sure there's lots for people to take away. And once again, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Pleasure.
Nancy, what a great discussion. There's so many things that I took from this episode. Thank you for listening to this podcast. We are always interested in hearing from you. What do you find useful from this pod? What do you want us to explore more in the future? Please do press subscribe. It helps us reach more people and share the experience of all my guests to a wider audience. See you soon. Bye for now.